All right, here we go. Big money, no whammy. Come on, 5-star. Come on, come on, come on. I'm running out of money. I thought you had a... Well, guess it's time to make a video. It's another video on another person leaving another six-figure job. You've probably seen articles on people leaving their jobs. You've probably seen videos on why people leave the tech industry, even though it pays so well. But why? And why do I feel so compelled to tell my story as well? Well, in order to answer that, we have to answer a few questions. Who am I? What did I do? How much was I making? And what did I learn from everything? And I feel like the answer might be a little different than what you expect. My name's Carlos Perez, and I know, right off the bat, it sounds like the Spanish equivalent of the name John Doe, but I assure you, that's what it says on my underwear and my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. In fact, it's this engineering degree that took me to the steps of Lawrence Berkeley National Labs at the beginning of the year 2020, and if we're following the timeline, that's exactly when the COVID lockdown first began. And there I was placed on a really small team that worked on the HL-LHC AUP, which stands for the High Luminosity Large Hadron Collider Accelerator Upgrade Program. Yeah, the names got really long. So, while the majority of the world was at home, I was one of the few people that was required to come in due to the importance of this job. And for the 2 years that I worked there, I contributed to the AUP program and other research. And here's the thing about the field of science and engineering, deadlines very seldom shift, which means if you're expected to make a delivery, it needs to be done. And this is especially true for an international collaboration, such as the AUP program. You see, our team was small. We were expected to make these deliveries even though the timeline didn't shift. That means we'd have to double or triple our efforts due to COVID slowdowns. So there we were working while the rest of the world stayed still, but we were contributing to the field of science and engineering, and I felt that that was very important, more important than when my friends asked to hang out on random weekdays because they were furloughed or, staying at home due to COVID. And this is something that stuck with me. Here I was contributing because I felt compelled to. I felt that this was more important than anything I should be doing at that point in time. But that little seed stuck with me, and it started to grow. Now, this wasn't the only pressure I felt at the lab, because for the 2 years that I was working there, the cost of living shot through the roof. The rate of inflation was massive because of COVID, and we were starting to feel it. The yearly raise that we got wasn't even close to matching. In fact, it got to a point where more than half of my monthly income went to rent. That didn't cover cost of living or other bills. And a lot of people were feeling that pressure. This is where one of my major flaws kicks in. I'm a huge people person. I love to talk to people. I love to get to know them. If you have to see me every day, I would prefer that you're happy to see me, because if not, then I feel work would be a lot more miserable. And it's because people were so miserable, I felt that I had to do something. I'm pretty sure the desire to make people happy stems from my comedic impulse. I might be an engineer on my resume, but I'm a comedian in art. In fact, when I was in college studying for my engineering degree, I was part of an improv club. I just thought that it was a great creative way to do comedy. I like to write comedy and I like to perform comedy. But between us, finding that kind of job on Indeed.com is a lot more difficult. And the only way that I could get around that was making short TikToks and posting them online, just as a creative outlet. So on my free time while working at the lab, I would just write short TikToks as a comedic outlet and post them online, because I just wanted a different outlet to make people happy. I wanted to share that with the world. And with morale so low at the lab and people so distressed, in order to make people happy, I felt that I needed to do something, and I led a movement. But it was a union role. We couldn't just get a raise. But that didn't stop me. I garnered support from other techs, scientists, and engineers, and we got really, really far. It just didn't work. You see, I was torn. I've been working with these people for the past 2 years, and I felt that everyone deserved a raise. But I loved the idea of contributing to particle physics, contributing to something so much greater than myself, something so incredible in the field of science and engineering. But I knew it was time to leave. I couldn't make a living there anymore, and worse, I couldn't make a difference for people. But that doesn't stop me from being friends with these people. In fact, I still have lunch with them from time to time and keep in contact with them. So a few months after my 2-year work anniversary at Berkeley, I had lunch with all my coworkers and left. A week later, I was picked up by a local startup. They offered me a much higher salary. Given my work experience, my resume, and a letter of recommendation from the lead scientist on the AUP program, I had a pretty decorated resume. I felt that my skills and talents were finally being recognized. I could flourish in this kind of field. This new job was amazing. It was a carbon reduction company with goals of a greener future. The people there were all hardworking, they were intelligent, and I loved talking with them. And with that in mind, I felt that I needed to do the same. With a goal of a green future, I wanted to contribute to that. Just like I wanted to contribute to the field of particle physics, my motivation to do something greater than myself was there. So I had something to prove, and I hit the ground sprinting. And I didn't just work hard, I worked a lot. There would be some days where I'd be one of the first ones in, and also one of the last ones out. It got to a point where I was working so hard, I began to neglect the simple things. Work was demanding. Sometimes I'd have to stand there for 6 hours, maybe even more. I'd have to work through lunch or even forgo it altogether. But hey, that's what they say startups are, right? It's meetings about meetings, projects, improvements, where can we be more efficient? And because of this, I didn't just spend a lot of time working there, I spent a lot of time and energy even thinking about it. I went to company outings, I volunteered for company events. It got to a point where I started to neglect the other things, such as eating and going to the gym. In fact, I ran on coffee because they had it on tap at the office. And at night, sometimes I just wouldn't eat, or I would throw in a frozen burrito in the microwave that I took from work that day. In fact, there was a period of time where I didn't eat for 5 days. The first 2 were work-related, and then the other 3 were just me testing endurance, but I was really just drinking water at that point. At the amount of overtime that I was doing and the amount that I was working, I was making around $110,000 annually. But this came at a terrible cost. I started to miss out on events. I missed some birthdays. I missed one of my friend's weddings. I would wake up, I'd go to work, I'd come back just to sleep. Sometimes I would even work on weekends on the laptop the company gave me. And I would even work on sick days attending meetings virtually. The strain and the pressure was weighing on me. Everything I thought about, everything I did was for the sake of this company. And I wasn't the only one feeling it. You see, within my time there, I had trained other technicians while also supporting my engineering duties. You see, the team that I worked on was the bottleneck of the company. Our team had to constantly produce high-quality items at a constant rate. There were deadlines that had to be met. It was a startup, and we needed to produce. And the problem is, our team felt way too much pressure. So, just like before, I decided to advocate. I started having meetings, I sent emails, and there were conversations made. There were promises made. And then the unexpected happened. Our manager decided to quit. The thing is, with this sudden decision to leave, work had to be delegated quickly amongst the team, which included me and 2 other engineers. But the problem is, we had just finished discussing that we couldn't accept any more work. It was unsustainable. The team had felt too much pressure. The workload was too much. So we decided to have another meeting about this. The team wasn't happy, and we couldn't keep pushing our limits. But unfortunately, unlike the last job, there was no union to protect me, and the company then found it in their best interest to fire me the next day. That same day, another engineer quit in solidarity with me, and for some of the people that found out, they even cried because I wasn't just a coworker. I was their friend that stood for something that was right. I had poured my heart and soul into this company, only to be kicked to the curb in front of all my friends. And I even found myself in a situation where it had the exact opposite effect of what I was trying to do, make people happy. And instead of making people happy, I was just gone. I had no idea what I was going to do. I decided to call my best friend because for the first time in my life, I felt lost. You see, I was so sure I was going down the right path this entire time. I had made it to the promised land of engineering where I could make 6 figures. But for what? I don't own a nice house. I can barely afford rent. Prices in California are so high. Did I ever take a vacation? No. I felt that I needed to complete this work because there was so much I needed to do. In fact, I worked on my sick days. And at the end of these 3 years of working in this industry, I was kicked to the curb, betrayed. I'd been working so hard because I was sold a dream. And the problem is that left me with this feeling of uncertainty that the next job would be any different. So here we are a few months later, where I sat at the proverbial crossroads and reflected. You see, I had dedicated my life and degree to engineering and science. I felt compelled to contribute to this field because we live in a world where I feel that engineering is taken for granted. How come we can't do X yet? How come Y hasn't been invented? All the meanwhile, those are being tweeted from a supercomputer that's being held in your hand. And yet I was constantly faced with missed opportunities. I missed out on being with friends. I missed out on making comedy videos. I missed out on somebody's wedding. People got to explore their passions during the COVID lockdown. This is an opportunity that I never had. People got to travel. People got to live their lives. Meanwhile, I never took a day off unless I was sick. And my compulsive desire to help people put me in a position where I either had to put my head down and do the work or help them. And that's where I've come to this decision that maybe I can choose a path where I don't have to choose between the 2 options. Maybe I can pursue that passion I've always had, but never got that opportunity to ever explore. Comedy. Now, I've only ever done stand-up for a couple of school projects, and I've made a few videos for TikTok, but I've never found the opportunity to make this a career. I always wrote my own jokes because it's a passion that I have. I wanted to share my jokes with other people. I wanted to make other people smile because that's something that I love to do. And it's something that I could stand to work endlessly, something that makes me, me.
As it is, I'm the one that wears heels on my dates. I mean, think about it. How many times have you seen a Filipino committing some huge crime on the news? It doesn't happen. because we're too short. I mean, can you imagine a Filipino trying to rob a bank? You know, they bust in. Everyone! Ay, teka muna. Okay, sige.
You see, that seed that had been growing in my head all these years made me realize a few things that I wanted to share with you guys, and I'll try my best to keep platitudes out of it. Most people have a plan, myself included, but everyone is one life-altering event from all of that changing, so nobody actually knows what's going to happen. Yeah, making six figures sounds great for a lot of people. Work hard, earn that coin, get spread around. But as I woke up early every day to go to work, only to come back home, where all the lights were already turned off, I realized a few things. I had begun to miss out on life events and seeing other people. Who was really happier, me eating that frozen burrito at night, or my friends living their lives, exploring their passions? And I thought to myself that perhaps working just enough to be able to afford yourself the opportunity to pursue your passions is good enough. Because if it wasn't, the world would be way more miserable than working at a company that sells you a dream for fear of it being legally binding if they were to ever write it down. It's a dream that you work hard for, but a goal without a plan is just that, a dream. So you work hard to meet that goal, harder than you feel that you need to. You put in the extra work because you have a plan, and the company will watch in silence as they reap all of the benefits. And when the time comes, the company can move that goalpost and sell that dream to the person that's come to replace you. But never think that your work was wasted. Be proud of the things that you did accomplish. Hold your head up high so people recognize you. Thank you for the things that you did. Stand with you because you're not some tally at the end of the day on the company spreadsheet. And even writing you cards even though you're no longer working there. Of course, not every place is like this. I strongly believe that companies are changing. They realize that the majority of people don't want to live their lives this way. There's more to life than working hard every single day only to afford 2 weeks off every year until you retire. People don't want to work more than they should just because the company's asking them to. It's no wonder that the pandemic years brought about huge changes in careers, moving, or even silently quitting. I mean, if there was a place that I could work and everyone was happy, I would still be pursuing the engineering field. But regardless, that's just been my experience. And for the past 3 years, I can proudly say that I contributed to the field of science and engineering, whether it was particle physics or a green future. And now I want to be able to say the same thing about my future and hold my head up high while I say I could do the same with my other passion, making people laugh. And this is where you guys come in. This is the story of why I left the field of tech and engineering, why I don't want to pursue another six-figure job, and why I'm not eating frozen burritos anymore. I might still be doing that. Instead, I'm taking the mental focus I had to work for 12 hours into short-form comedy, long-form comedy, and engineering videos. I get to pursue a passion, a chance that I never had. I love anime, philosophy, science, and engineering. I have tons of stories about my previous job or even studying abroad in the Philippines. I wake up every single day writing the next chapter in this story, and I really hope that you guys can catch my next stream, even watch my next video, and hopefully my next comedy skit makes you laugh. And I know this video was a bit long, and I had so much more to say, but I want to leave some time to get to know your thoughts. What are your questions? Leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer. Maybe I'll even make another video about it. But for now, thanks for watching, and wherever you are in the big wide world, have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Alright, big money, no whammy, here we go. Come on, give me a 5-star. Oh! God damn it. Why?